Live from Fox 8 Sports, this is Fox 8 Live Tailgate, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealer, built Ford tough. Kia. Acadian Windows, official window company of the Who Dat Nation. And 2017 Nissan Titan, with America's best bumper-to-bumper limited truck warranty, Nissan Titan. Take on any job.
We continue this Veterans Day weekend with a live look into Buffalo's chilly and cloudy New Era Stadium. It's where the Saints will go for their 7th straight win as they face the Buffalo Bills. No dome-like feel for the Saints today. Mother Nature's going to hit them in the mouth with temperatures in the 40s at kickoff. Sean Vazan's there, the West Banker. We know he's a little wrapped up right now. We'll get to him in a minute once he defrosts. But good morning, everyone. Alongside Chris Hagan, I'm Juan Kincaid, and this is Fox 8 Live Tailgate. We're getting you geared up for the Saints and Bills. We've got you until the top of the hour. That's when we'll hand things off to Fox's national pregame show, and they will take you up to noon, kickoff between the Saints and Bills. Saints begin their 3rd quarter of the season today with a tricky one in chilly Buffalo against a team that's undefeated at home.
But streaks and trends, they're only made to be broken, and something has to give today. The Saints' 6-game win streak or Buffalo's perfect record at New Era Field should be a good one between two teams with really a good shot at the playoffs.
You're right about that. The Saints' 6-game win streak feels like Christmas has come early because nothing makes for a happier locker room than winning. A 6-2 record, sitting atop the NFC South standings, is not where most figured this team would be before the season kicked off. But here they are, and after 3 straight subpar seasons, Drew Brees said it feels nice to be having some fun again.
Certainly better to be 6-2 than where we've been in the past at this point in the season, the last 3 years. You know, I like the approach each and every week. You know, I love the competitive nature that has been cultivated here, and the way that guys enjoy being around each other and the way they push one another. You know, like, we know when it's time to work, we know when it's time to have a good time. You know, I'm such a routine-oriented guy that, man, I get caught up in that all week long. But I have, after games, tried to just, you know, look around and enjoy the roses a little bit.
This team is having fun because everyone's contributing to the wins. Justin Hardy's block, scoop, and score against Tampa Bay last week is a reminder that all 3 phases have had a hand in this team's 6-game win streak.
That's right, Juan, and all 3 phases will have to play well today. Along this 6-game streak, the Saints haven't been perfect, but a lot of their mistakes were forgiven by lesser opponents. That probably won't be the case today in Buffalo.
Speaking of Buffalo, let's go back out to the stadium now and check in. Our first check-in live is Sean Vazan. Now, Sean, I know you're a West Bank guy. I hope you brought the big coat. It's windy and cool there, right?
I am nice and layered up here, Juan Kincaid. It is chilly out here in Buffalo. The weather may be cold, but the Saints, as you guys said, they are red hot after 6 straight wins. They've kind of got that mojo back a little bit. And for this team, it all starts with the man who wears the visor on the sideline. Game Diggs.
We're going to have to clean up some of those mistakes and some of the things that they're going to hurt us when we play a better team.
To his Twitter trolling, it's safe to say Sean Payton has his swagger back. The head coach is clicking, and it's a major reason why this team has won 6 straight. Confidence is a funny thing. Payton himself always says it comes from demonstrated ability. Maybe that's why he didn't seem to have his normal dose of it the last 3 seasons. Those 3 teams simply didn't demonstrate it enough to warrant that confidence. But the tide has turned in 2017, and Payton is back to the style that fits him best. And the team reaps the benefits. The confidence oozing from the head coach gives them the belief that they can do anything. And for the last 6 weeks, they have. Today, they have a chance to make it 7. And with that, we welcome in the voice of the Saints, Jim Henderson, the gloveless Jim Henderson. He is a tough guy. He's from up this far. He knows these parts of the country here. But we just ran the piece. Sean Payton found that mojo back. It's a different Sean Payton. Maybe it's the same Sean Payton from years past, but not just recently. I think Sean Payton kind of has that mojo back.
Well, I think you're right. You can just tell this is a loose and confident football team at every level. You've dealt with them at all the levels of administration, coaches, players. They all have an air of confidence about themselves. Sean's making all the right calls, and he's back into it again. I mean, I think we saw after last week more enthusiasm in postgame than we've ever seen from Sean Payton in recent years. They know they got something special going going here. They got to keep it going today.
This is an interesting test, though. It's a cold weather game. It's in Buffalo. This is an uncommon opponent. This is a pretty tough matchup for this team today.
Especially here. This is a team that's 4-0 in the AFC. They're the only home team unbeaten in the AFC. They're much better here than they've been on the road as recently as in New York against the Jets on that Thursday night game when they really played horribly. They like it here. Probably the worse weather, the better. This is about as good as you can expect in mid-November in Western New York.
This third quarter of the season for this team, you have Buffalo, you have Washington, you have LA, then Carolina. You're 6-2 right now. Is this where you kind of can separate yourself from the rest of the pack?
Yeah, I think so, and especially when you look at this quarter of the season, it's a lot tougher than it looked like when the schedule came out. I mean, Buffalo's right behind New England at 5-3. The Rams are one of the surprise teams in the NFL. Washington, I think, is better than most people thought, especially in view of their injuries. Carolina's playing better. They're right on the heels of the Saints, so yeah, it's a very important four-game stretch.
You and I were talking before the show began. This Buffalo offense is interesting. Tyrod Taylor doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, but he's prone to get sacked a lot. What did you think of this Buffalo offense?
Well, I think you got to control him running with the football. It's LaShawn McCoy, for the most part, is all their offense. But when it comes to Tyrod Taylor, no quarterback in NFL history has thrown a lower percentage of interceptions. So if you pressure him, and he was sacked like 7 times by the Jets, he's either going to run with the football or take the sack for the most part. So you got to continue to pressure him. Don't let him get out of the pocket because he's a threat to run the football.
Now, I happen to believe that it's the best name in the world. Today you have 2 head coaches by the name of Sean, spelled S-E-A-N the correct way. 2 head coaches by the name of Sean is very interesting.
Well, 489 head coaches in the history of professional football, and only 3 of them have ever been named Sean. We have 2 here today, and Sean McDermott and Sean Payton, and then next week, Sean McVay out in Los Angeles to take on the Rams. So apparently you can never have enough Seans in pro football.
No surprise, success has followed the name Sean.
Of course.
No surprise at all. Okay, Jim, how did they get the win here today?
Well, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think you continue to play field position, although the conditions are fine. Play field position, don't turn it over, make the Bills go a long way. They're not particularly a chunk play team, and I think you come out of here with a 7th straight win.
He is Jim Henderson, the tough Jim Henderson, no gloves.
None.
He says Saints win, or hopefully a Saints win here today. Back to you guys.
Fellas, thank you very much. We do appreciate it. Jim will have much more for us today, but we want to remind you of his Monday schedule: 8 a.m. Black and Gold Rewind, 5 p.m. the award-winning commentary, and at 10:35 the Black and Gold Review, an all-encompassing look of the game with Jim, Sean, and me. You can start submitting questions to the show today via the Final Word feature on the Final Play app, and I'm hearing that Jim will be gloveless for those shows as well. He's a tough guy.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Well, in today's NFL, rookies and their production can make or break you. Draft picks that didn't pan out left the Saints trying to fill too many holes, resulting in 7-9 seasons. But this year's draft class, outstanding to say the least. Where would this black and gold team be without Alvin Kamara, Ryan Ramczyk, or Marshawn Lattimore, just to name a few? Each of them are playing some of the best football on the team and in the league. Lattimore's shut down some of the best receivers in the NFL, while Kamara leads the league with 6 yards per carry. Simply put, they've come a long way since July.
It's crazy because me and Trey Hendrickson, we was talking about it. He came up to me last week and he was like, "Man, like our class is balling." And you know, after the game on Sunday, like I just got so many questions about it, like, and just people talking about like y'all's class is really doing like great. And I'm like, man, like when you look at it, it's like all around we're having a great year as a class. So it's fun to be a part of, and it's cool that, like, you know, the guys that you came in with next to you that went through that little rookie like situation with you and OTAs trying to find your way around everything, like they're balling, and it's a lot of hard work.
And how about this for a blast from the past? The heralded 2006 class with Saints legends like Jari Evans, Marcus Colston, Reggie Bush, Roman Harper, and Zach Strief had 42 starts that season. This year's class is on pace to surpass them, and we all know what that 2006 group was able to accomplish. And maybe most impressive about this class, they haven't let the big moments get to them. Against Detroit, Green Bay, and Chicago, they handled the pressure late in games, and it should only get better with time.
We spend so much time praising these rookies, but you know they're going to make some mistakes along the way. What are you worried about?
Well, you know, this class still is young. I would just have to say we'll have to see how they react when adversity really really hits them. They've been fortunate enough to play with a lot of leads the last 6 games. Those tough times will really show us how deep they can dig when they inevitably happen.
Word, my brother.
Word.
Said it right there, baby. All right. And for Chris's fantasy football advice, you can head to the Final Play app and submit a question about your roster using the Final Word feature. Chris is standing by to get you set for a winning day. You can still have almost 2 hours to kick off, so plenty of time to ponder a change. We're just getting started here on Tailgate, not the Final Play. That's coming up soon. When we come back, how much of an impact can Kelvin Benjamin have in Buffalo in his debut? And on the other side of the ball, Tre'Davious White. Remember him? He was the Defensive Rookie of the Month before Marshawn Lattimore. Sean Vazan breaks down the film on him. And later, Delvin Breaux's season is over before it ever begins. What does it mean for his career in black and gold as he heads into free agency as a restricted free agent this offseason? Stay with us.
You're watching Fox 8 Live Tailgate.
Can I ask you a general question about the Bills and Tyrod Taylor? Just
sure.
What you've seen from them, or what he.
Somebody earlier called him Hot Rod Taylor. Is that a thing?
I don't know.
Okay. As long as nobody else brings that one up, that was awkward. I was like, I don't even know how to address a man. It sounded Chippendale-ish. It sounded like the old SNL skit.
Chippendale-ish.
Yeah,
Cam Jordan.
that's a new adjective. The Saints clearly having a lot of fun right now as they're on this 6-game winning streak.
Yeah, they're having fun. And you can see there's a lighter mood in the locker room now to be talking about that. We're week 9 in the season.
They're playing well with it. Buffalo, not a familiar place for the Saints, though, but the Bills do have a player on their roster that the Saints are very familiar with.
Guy's pretty good as well. Kelvin Benjamin is now a Bill, and you know what? He's once a Carolina Panther wide receiver and a very effective one when he went up against the Saints twice a season. Benjamin gives the Bills offense a much-needed weapon with size, and he figures to be a real handful for the Saints today. Marshawn Lattimore likely to get that assignment. As for why Benjamin's change of NFL address had to happen, the wide receiver said he saw it coming.
To tell you the truth, I kind of really wasn't surprised. I mean, I kind of feel that the offense was kind of going to another direction. But like I said, man, I mean, this is a great opportunity for me. I'm excited. You know what I'm saying? Come to a new city, man, new team. You know, when I got here, man, they had open arms, and I'm loving it. I'm excited. I mean, I thought about it, and I mean, at first when it first hit me, you know, you kind of like, because it's all you know. You know, I got drafted there, but you know, after a couple days and after being here, man, the open arms and just feel so welcome. It's second nature, man. It feels like home to me already.
And when you look at how the Bills distribute the ball on offense, you see why Benjamin could be effective. He'll make a nice 1-2 punch with running back LaShawn McCoy, who's fantastic. He gets targeted the most on the passing routes in this Bills offense. Receiver Zay Jones is out today, so that's one more reason to expect Benjamin to get plenty of throws his way, along with Jordan Matthews and tight end Charles Clay. And with this being Benjamin's first game as a Buffalo Bill, this begs the question, which Saints cornerback will draw his assignment? I think we all know who it's going to be.
Yeah, I think it absolutely has to be Marshawn Lattimore. He didn't match up with him earlier this season because he missed that game in Carolina, but I think he's the Saints' best chance to make him a non-factor. And speaking of rookie corners, Sean Vazan, we hear there's another one in today's game that could be a big difference maker.
No doubt about that, Chris. The Saints not the only team in this game that have a very good rookie cornerback. Buffalo has one, too, and he's a player we're quite familiar with. LSU's Tre'Davious White has stepped right in and filled in nicely with this Bills' aggressive defense, as I found out in my film breakdown. Game statistically came against Denver in Week 3. He finished with 7 tackles, 4 pass breakups, and an interception. Let's begin with his tackling. White is not afraid to hit. In the first quarter, right out of the gate on the very first play of the game, White makes a strong tackle in the flat. He can also tackle running backs. Here he is stepping in to fill the gap to stop C.J. Anderson. Later in the game, on a 3rd and 5, White is guarding Emmanuel Sanders, who catches the short inside-out route, but White makes the short tackle on Sanders short of the sticks. In this game, White also did a nice job of not making the same mistake twice. Earlier in the game, Demaryius Thomas beat White on a back shoulder throw where White had pretty good coverage. Later in the game, Sanders ran a back shoulder route, but this time, White forced the incompletion. At one point in the game, Sanders beat White on a simple post route. Later in the game, Sanders ran the exact same route, but this time, White was there for the PBU. Finally, White's interception was simply taking advantage of a bad throw. While guarding an out route, Trevor Siemian badly underthrows the ball. White picked it off, stopping a scoring opportunity for the Broncos. Now, White has also had some rookie moments. He actually blamed the entire loss to New York last week on his play, was actually seen in tears in the locker room after the game. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Sean. Much more tailgate to come. It's not just Delvin Breaux that the Saints secondary will be without. We'll look at the impact of losing safety Kenny Vaccaro to a groin injury. And later, with the black and gold atop the NFC South at the halfway point of the season, it's time for you to start scoreboard watching. We'll take a peek around the league.
Watching Fox 8 Live Tailgate.
Juan, sometimes the only thing that can slow down a team as hot as the Saints is injuries.
And coming into the weekend, there were a few to keep an eye on as we approach kickoff. Early injury report, and the one thing we know for certain is that Kenny Vaccaro is out with a groin injury. Questionable is Teron Armstead and Larry Warford. Not listed after being limited in practice during the week, Mike Thomas, the receiver, and defensive end Alex Okafor. So we will wait and see on those guys. In the case of Kenny Vaccaro, though, he's been everything the Saints need right now. Does this make him a top priority to re-sign?
I think so now, and I thought so even before this great run of play. Vaccaro's competitive nature has always been there, even if his voice wasn't. And now that he's become more of a leader, the defense is kind of taken on his personality, and they're playing with that edge that we've seen from Vaccaro since day one in New Orleans.
In less than a week, the news on Delvin Breaux went from bad to worse. Finally off of injured reserve and eligible to play last week. He suffered a setback leading up to the Bucs game and didn't play. In fact, word then was that he'd miss at least a few more weeks. That few more weeks has turned into the rest of the season. Breaux will remain on injured reserve, and his season is done. Breaux suffered a fractured fibula back in August that was misdiagnosed as a contusion. The Saints were still holding out hope that he'd be available at the midway point of the season, but we now know that he's done. Here's Sean Payton on the back and forth with Breaux's health.
I wouldn't describe it as a saga. It's a setback. You know, obviously you want your players healthy, and you know, the rehab's going well. He's worked hard and diligent. You know, it's still not 100%. And but it is going well, and all the indications we have when we do the scans and the testing show it healing properly.
Lucky for the Saints, the team hasn't had a fall off in the secondary, and the defense has actually played better when Breaux's not even in there.
The question is, how aggressive will the Saints be trying to re-sign him for next season when they've got, you know, so many pieces back there now?
We do know that he's a restricted free agent, Chris, and he's expected to draw some interest, but this injury and his injury history with the Saints will not help him much in terms of commanding a big payday, so we'll wait and see on that as well. Coming up, the Saints' plane ride home from Buffalo will surely be spent scoreboard watching as a pair of teams hot on their heels take the field. Chris Hagan has a preview of the Cowboys and Falcons, including the historic mark that Dak Prescott is chasing. And later, we're back to the blustery weather in Buffalo, where Sean Bazan is joined by Larry Holder to look at the reinvigorated Drew Brees we're seeing this season.
watching Fox 8 Live Tailgate.
We're in for a treat this week with not only the Saints game here on Fox 8 at noon, but it's followed by another game to keep an eye on between the Cowboys and Falcons. They're both battling for their respective divisions, but could also be tough wild card teams to contend with, especially Dallas. Dak Prescott's only gotten better in year 2, and after last week, he has 5 career games with multiple touchdown passes and a rushing touchdown. That puts him just 1 game short of Cam Newton's 6 in the first 2 seasons of his career. Dak, like Cam, is among the best of dual-threat quarterbacks in the league. The outcome of that game will obviously affect the NFC South picture. As well as the Saints are playing, the margin between the black and gold and the rest of the division isn't too big. Carolina's on their heels, and the Saints still have 2 December games against the Dirty Birds. Now, also on our radar, Minnesota and Washington. Both teams, like the Falcons and Cowboys, are in that very tight NFC playoff picture. Not to mention, the Saints have a matchup coming up with Washington in 1 week. Lots of fantasy football players in that game, and don't forget, if you haven't already, check out the Extra Point blog. Every week, I'll dish out fantasy football advice and who to keep your eyes on as the season continues. There is a new post up right now on the Final Play app and fox8live.com. And if you head over to the app right now, you can also submit a question about your roster using the Final Word feature, and I'll let you know what your options are. Still an hour and a half to noon kickoffs, so be sure to fire those questions away. Well, coming up, how much will the Saints defense miss Kenny Vaccaro today? Sean Fazant is joined by Larry Holder in Buffalo to examine the safety's multifaceted impact.